If there's one hero that can completely ruin an enemy's game, it's Widowmaker. Good Widowmakers are probably the strongest thing in Overwatch, so today I'm going to get you introduced to this beast of a sniper. My name is Nathan, and this is Blizzard Guides. So I'm going to go over 5 things, 3 different styles of aim, all which are extremely important to master, and some basic positioning, and then just usage of Venomine and her ultimate. Should be pretty straightforward. The true mastery really comes from upping your reaction time and also just learning your sensitivity really well. So at number 5, we're going to talk about the tracking style aim, and when and where you should use it. Tracking style aim refers to the very smooth aim, where you're constantly following your targets and lining up shots by moving your reticle in tandem with the movement of the enemy. By doing so, you're able to more consistently land shots and get the damage in where it is needed. You should always track when possible. I'd say probably mid to long range is a must. When you're doing this, there's just one thing that you have to keep consciously in mind while you aim that will allow you to greatly improve your accuracy. Just watch the animation of the enemy and line up shots where you can predict where they will be. If you see something like an enemy widow flying through the air, you'll be able to easily predict where she will be because you can't really control where you'll end up when you're flying through the air. You want to think about where the enemy will be in the next second and track all the way until they meet that point, at which point you click and shoot and hopefully get the kill. This is by far the most consistent way to aim as Widow. If you're able to track and line up shots, you'll more likely be able to get damage in and have your ult up a lot. There are 2 major things that you should look for when going for a tracking shot. 1, wait until the enemy jumps. If the enemy jumps, then you'll be able to follow the arc of their jump, and when they reach the highest point of it, you can aim for their neck and either get a headshot if you think you can, or at least go for the body shot. It's a small thing, but it makes a drastic difference in your consistency. And the second tip, if you can't wait for them to jump, after playing a lot of Widow, really focus on learning which animations have the most stable heads and try and learn where the animation moves slowest. This tip is definitely more tedious, but if you focus and try to learn the animations and predicting where their head will be stationary the longest, you'll be able to get more opportunities for headshots. At number 4, we've got flicks. Flicks are definitely the most important whenever you're at close range. Anything from mid to short range I like to flick with. I actually prefer flick shotting even sometimes at long range just because I run a very high sense, but it is a more combo of the two. If you don't already know what a flick shot is, it's basically just when you rapidly move your reticle from wherever you are currently aiming to the enemy's head and just get the aim off quickly. Because it is such a fast and violent movement, you'll almost always end up missing since flicks are more inconsistent, so don't only ever flick. The best way to learn Widow is to learn tracking and movement first and foremost, and then learn to flick. If you do this, you'll be able to learn intuitively where the enemy will be next, and you'll be able to flick to the position that the enemy will be at, allowing you to do mental tracking. Again, you want to wait for the enemy to enter an animation where they will be more predictably moving, but instead of tracking, just wait until they're at the apex of their animation or jump, and you'll be able to line up the shots quicker. 2 tips for flicks. 1, whenever you're trying to learn flicks, I'd recommend going into a custom game with some animbots that have only headshots turned on, and practice flicking a very short distance between their head and your reticle until you can consistently land headshots from that distance, and then slowly increase the gap between the reticle and their head until you're flicking 90 degrees from their head. This will allow you to learn the sensitivity that you have and help you find what's comfortable. And second, whenever you flick, sometimes I see players try and return their reticle to the original position after each flick, which if it works fine for you, that's fine, but sometimes it is better to flick and not return your reticle to the original position to help you line your next shot quicker. It's something that doesn't seem intuitive at first, but it can be a big aid if you're having trouble learning flicks. At number 3, the last style of aim, we have hook shots. Hook shotting is a combination of using your hook and pressing space right before you hit the ledge and then shooting in mid-air. You usually can't do a tracking shot when you do this just because of the nature of a hook shot. Hook shotting is a really important skill to master, so here are 3 tips to learning them. 1, you must always figure out where the enemy is hiding and where the tanks are going to be so that you can avoid the tanks. The tanks are going to be your biggest enemy whenever you're trying to land a hook shot because they can block all the damage very easily. So you really have to focus on figuring out where the tanks are going to be before you actually go for the hook shot so that you have an idea of where the backline supports are or whatever pesky DPS that is stuck on high ground that is annoying your team. Second, you want to know what you're going for. You can't just really blindly hook shot unless you have really good reflexes. Imagine the target that you're going to be going after and jump up and go for just that kill. And lastly, hook shotting basically just gives you a free shot, so whenever you do go for a hook shot, don't worry if you can't get the kill. You had your chance, just try and make sure that you land in a safe spot. More often than than not, I see a lot of Widowmakers go for a hook shot and then they end up just landing in the enemy backline and dying immediately because they didn't plan out where they were going to land before they went for the hook shot. If you hook shot and let yourself die, you've ruined the value that you might have gotten from that one kill, as you're now dead and your team is down a damage dealer. Only ever hook shot where you're going to be safe, and only ever hook shot into an equal or better position. And speaking of position, at number 2, we're going to talk about where you should be standing as Widow. Whenever you play Widow, you're not really going to have many options to get away from very high mobility heroes. Because of this fact, you're going to have to play very far back whenever there are lots of threats on the objective, and you're going to want to play a bit closer up whenever your team can protect you and there aren't many enemies on point or wherever the team fight might be going on. High ground is going to be your best friend. Also, try and take positions where the enemy tanks or mobile DPS are going to be forced to leave the team and try to deal with you. If you take cross angles that are distance, the enemy has no option other than to try and go after you, or at least die to you, because if they try and block you, your entire enemy team is going to be on the opposing angle firing damage as well. You really should never be on point as Widow because of this fact. Also, sometimes it is advantageous if you go for a flank as Widow, however, I wouldn't really recommend this unless you're starting to land consistent shots, so just be very honest with yourself if you're going to go for a big flank. But to summarize, the biggest thing you want to always be considering as Widow whenever you're positioning is risk versus reward. If you're taking a risky angle where you're maybe only going to get a kill on the enemy Genji, it's probably not worth taking that shot. But if you're taking a safe position where you're likely to get a kill on the Zen, you definitely want to hold that position until there is no more opportunities to kill. Constantly ask yourself who you want to kill and why, and if that positioning is going to help you to do so while also keeping you safe. If you do this, you'll be a much more consistent Widow because positioning is going to be king whenever you're playing Widow, not your aim. And lastly, at number 1, we're going to talk about the most underutilized parts of Widow's kits, her wall hack and Venom Mine. Venom Mine is extremely useful for setting up where you're going to be standing, so that if you get jumped, the extra 75 damage over time will give you the opportunity to finish your opponent even if you die. The Venom Mine is also very useful for throwing over the enemy lines so that you can hopefully get it activated on some support in the backline, allowing you to see their positioning immediately. If you can do this, you're going to be able to take a position where you might be able to land a shot on said support, so use it wisely. And with wall hacks, you'll also be able to do the same thing. In addition to this, you're going to be able to see the positions of the enemy lines from which you can call out where they will be and get your team to focus on some enemy that's stranded by themselves. You can use your ult before each team fight, and you want to use your Venom Mine at all times. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, if you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, let me know in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to leave a like on this video as it really helps us know that you guys are enjoying this content, and don't forget to subscribe as we have a lot of epic moments videos so that you can see the best plays from around the globe, and we've got tips and tricks videos so that you can be the best Overwatch player that you can be. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Have a nice day. My name is Nathan, and this was Blizzard Guides.